This is a special lesson study. It follows the Tower of Babel and the true history of Easter that little does anyone know or refuses to open their eyes with eyes wide open to see the truth. Easter had nothing to do with the Lord's resurrection. It is a pagan holiday. The Tower of Babel. This narrative in Genesis chapter 11, verse 1 through 9 is an origin myth meant to explain why the world's people speak different languages. According to the story, a united human race in the generations following the Great Flood, speaking a single language. There they agreed to build a city, and migrating westward comes to the land of Shinar, a tower tall enough to reach heaven. God, observing their city and tower, confounds their speech so that they can no longer understand each other and scatters them around the world. Some modern scholars have associated the Tower of Babel with known structures, notably the Etemenanki, a ziggurat dedicated to the Mesopotamian god Marduk in Babylon. A Sumerian story with some similar elements is told in Enmekar and the Lord of Arada. King Nimrod. Nimrod, a biblical figure described as a king in the land of Shinar in Mesopotamia, was, according to the book of Genesis and book of Chronicles, the son of Cush, the grandson of Ham, and great-grandson of Noah. The Bible states that he was a mighty hunter before the Lord, and began to be mighty in the earth. Extra-biblical traditions associated him with the Tower of Babel, led to his reputation as a king who was rebellious against God. Attempts to match Nimrod with historically attested figures have failed. Nimrod may not represent any one personage known to history, and various authors have identified him with several real and fictional characters of Mesopotamian antiquity, including the Mesopotamian god Ninurta, or a conflation of two Akkadian kings, Sargon, his grandson Naram-Sin, dated 2254 to 2218 BC, and Tuk-Kulti Ninurta, dated 1243 to 1207 BC. Queen Semiramis was the legendary Lydian Babylonian wife of Onus and Ninus, succeeding to the latter to the throne of Assyria. The legends narrated by Diodorus Siculus, who drew from the works of Ctesias of Cnidus, describe her and her relationships to Onus and King Ninus, a mythical king of Assyria, not attested in the far older and more comprehensive Assyrian king list. Armenians and the Assyrians of Iraq, northeast Syria, southeast Turkey, and northwest Iran still use the Shemiram as a given name for female children. The real and historical Shemiramat, the original Akkadian and Aramaic form of the name, was the Assyrian wife of Shamshi Adad V, ruled in 824 BC to 811 BC, ruler of the Neo-Assyrian Empire and its region for 5 years until her son Adad-nirari III came of age and took the reins of power. She ruled at a time of political uncertainty, which is one of the possible explanations for why Assyrians may have accepted her rule, as normally a woman as ruler would have been unthinkable. It has been speculated that ruling successfully as a woman may have made the Assyrians regard her with particular reverence, and that the achievements of her reign, including stabilizing and strengthening the empire after a destructive civil war, were retold over the generations until she was turned into a mythical figure. The name of Semiramis came to be applied to various monuments in Western Asia and Anatolia, the origin of which was forgotten or unknown. Various places in Upper Mesopotamia and throughout Mesopotamia as a whole, Media, Persia, the Levant, Anatolia, the Arabian Peninsula, and the Caucasus bore the name of Semiramis, slightly changed even in the Middle Ages, and an old name of the Armenian city of Van was Shamiramagerd. In Armenian, it means created by Semiramis. Nearly every stupendous work of antiquity by the Euphrates or in Iran seems to have ultimately been ascribed to her. Even the Behistun inscription of Darius Herodotus ascribes to her the artificial banks that confined the Euphrates and knows her name as borne by a gate of Babylon. She conquered much of Middle East and the Levant. She was mortally wounded after fighting an Indian king, and the Assyrian army was mostly destroyed. In ancient traditions, legends describing Semiramis have been recorded by writers including Plutarch, Eusebius, Polyaenus, and Justinus. She was associated with Ishtar and Astarte since the time before Diodorus. The association of the fish and dove is found at Heropolis Bambyce, Mabog, now Manbij, the great temple, which, according to one legend, was founded by Semiramis, where her statue was shown with a golden dove on her head. The Two Babylons. The book The Two Babylons, printed in 1853 AD by the Christian minister Alexander Hislop, was particularly influential in characterizing of Semiramis as associated with the Whore of Babylon, despite a lack of supporting evidence in the Bible. Hislop claimed that the Semiramis invented polytheism and, with it, goddess worship. He also claimed that the Catholic Church was a millennia-old secret conspiracy founded by Semiramis and the biblical king Nimrod to propagate the pagan religion of ancient Babylon. Graby and others have rejected the book's arguments as based on a flawed understanding of the text, but variations of them are accepted among some groups of evangelical Protestants. Hislop believed that Semiramis was a queen consort and the mother of Nimrod, builder of the Bible's Tower of Babel, although the Bible does not mention him having any consorts. He said that Semiramis and Nimrod's incestuous male offspring was the Akkadian deity Tammuz, and that all divine pairings in religions were retellings of this story. These claims are still circulated among some groups of evangelical Protestants in the form of Jack Chick tracts, comic books, and related media. Author and conspiracy theorist David Icke, or David Icke, incorporated Hislop's claims about Semiramis into his book, The Biggest Secret, claiming that Semiramis also had a key role in the reptilian alien conspiracy that he asserts is secretly controlling humanity, the Anunnaki. Now, let's think about this for a moment. So, nobody knows who Nimrod's father was, but he has sex with his mother, and she gives birth to her son's son. That makes her a grandmother mother, and he is the sun father. Symbolical. Sun father, worshipping the sun. Okay, so that's where the incestuous practice came for even royalty today, or at least up through the Dark Ages. Inanna. Inanna is an ancient Mesopotamian goddess associated with sex, war, justice, and political power. She was originally worshipped in Sumer and was later worshipped by the Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians under the name Ishtar. She was known as the Queen of Heaven and was the patron goddess of the Iana temple at the city of Uruk, which was her main cult center. She was associated with the planet Venus, and her most prominent symbols included the lion and the eight-pointed star. Her husband was the god Dumuzid, later known as Tammuz, and her sakal, or personal attendant, was the goddess Ninshubar, who later became the male deity Papsukal. Inanna was worshipped in Sumer at least as early as the Uruk period, 4000 BC to 3100 BC, but she had little cult prior to the conquest of Sargon of Akkad. During the post-Sargonic era, she became one of the most widely venerated deities in the Sumerian pantheon, with temples across Mesopotamia. The cult of Inanna Ishtar, which may have been associated with a variety of sexual rites, was continued by the East Semitic-speaking people, Akkadians, Assyrians, and Babylonians, who succeeded and absorbed the Sumerians in the region. She was especially beloved by the Assyrians, who elevated her to become the highest deity in her pantheon, ranking above their own national god, Ashur. Inanna Ishtar is alluded to in the Hebrew Bible, and she greatly influenced the Phoenician goddess Ashtoreth, who later influenced the development of the Greek goddess Aphrodite. Her cult continued to flourish until its gradual decline between the 1st and 6th centuries AD in the wake of Christianity, though it survived in parts of the upper Mesopotamia among Assyrian communities as late as the 18th century. Inanna appears in more myths than any other Sumerian deity. Many of her myths involve her taking over the domains of other deities. She was believed to have stolen the mess, which represented all positive and negative aspects of civilization, from Enki, the god of wisdom. She was also believed to have taken over the Eanna temple from An, the god of the sky. Along her twin brother, Utu, later known as Shamash, Inanna was the enforcer of divine justice. She destroyed Mount Ebe for having challenged her authority, unleashed her fury upon the gardener Shakaletuda after he raped her in her sleep, and tracked her down the bandit woman Bilulu and killed her in divine retribution for having murdered Dumuzid. In the standard Akkadian version of the Epic of Gilgamesh, Ishtar asks Gilgamesh to become her consort. When he refuses, she unleashes the Bull of Heaven, resulting in the death of Enkidu and Gilgamesh's subsequent grapple with his mortality. Inanna Ishtar's most famous myth is the story of her descent into and return from Kur, the ancient Sumerian underworld, a myth in which she attempts to conquer the domain of her older sister, Ereshkigal, the queen of the underworld, but is instead deemed guilty of hubris by the 7 judges of the underworld and struck dead. 3 days later, Ninshubar pleads with all the gods to bring Inanna back, but all of them refuse her except Enki, who sends 2 sexless beings to rescue Inanna. They escort Inanna out of the underworld, but the Gala, the guardians of the underworld, drag her husband, Dumuzid, down to the underworld as her replacement. Dumuzid is eventually permitted to return to heaven for half the year, while his sister Geshtinanna remains in the underworld for the other half, resulting in the cycle of the seasons. Family. Inanna's twin brother was Utu, the god of the sun and justice, who was later known as Shamash in East Semitic languages. In Sumerian texts, Inanna and Utu are shown as extremely close. In fact, their relationship frequently borders on incestuous. Inanna's Sukal is the goddess Nenshubar, whose relationship with Inanna is one of mutual devotion. In the myth of her descent into the underworld, Inanna addresses Ereshkigal, the queen of the underworld, as her older sister, but the two goddesses almost never appear together in Sumerian literature. In Uruk, Inanna was usually regarded as the daughter of the sky god An, but in the Isan tradition, she is usually described as the daughter of the moon god Nana, who was later known as Sin. In literary texts, she is sometimes described as the daughter of Enlil or the daughter of Enki. In some later stories, Inanna Ishtar is the sister of Ishkur Haddad, the god of storms, and in Hittite mythology, Ishtar is the sister of Teshub, the Hittite storm god. Dumuzid, later known as Tammuz, the god of shepherds, is usually described as Inanna's husband, but Inanna's loyalty to him is questionable. In the myth of her descent into the underworld, she abandons Dumuzid and permits the Gala demons to drag him down into the underworld as her replacement. But in the later myth of the return of Dumuzid, Inanna paradoxically mourns over Dumuzid's death and ultimately decrees that he will be allowed to return to heaven to be with her for one half of the year. Inanna is not usually described as having any offspring, but in the myth of Lugalbanda and in a single building inscription from the 3rd dynasty of Ur, 2112 to 2004 BC, the warrior god Shara is described as her son. She was also sometimes considered the mother of Lulal, who is described in other texts as the son of Ninsun. The pagan origin of Easter. Easter is a day that is honored by nearly all of contemporary Christianity and is used to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The holiday often involves a church service at sunrise, a feast which includes an Easter ham, decorated eggs, and stories about rabbits. Those who love the truth to learn to ask questions, and many questions must be asked regarding the holiday of Easter. Is it truly the day when Jesus arose from the dead? Where did all of these strange customs come from, which have nothing to do with the resurrection of our Savior? The purpose of this tract is to help answer those questions and to help those who seek the truth to draw their own conclusions. The first thing we must understand is that professing Christians were not the only ones who celebrated a festival called Easter. Ishtar, which is pronounced Eastar, was a day that commemorated the resurrection of one of their gods that they called Tammuz, who was believed to be the only begotten son of the moon goddess and the sun goddess. In those ancient times, there was a man named Nimrod, who was the grandson of one of Noah's sons, named Ham. Ham had a son named Cush, who married a woman named Semiramis. Cush and Semiramis then had a son named Nimrod. After the death of his father, Nimrod married his own mother and became a powerful king. The Bible tells of this man, Nimrod, in Genesis chapter 10, verse 8 through 10 as follows. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod the mighty hunter before the Lord. And at the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, and the land of Shinar. Nimrod became a god-man to the people, and Semiramis, his wife and mother, became the powerful queen of ancient Babylon. Nimrod was eventually killed by an enemy, and his body was cut in pieces and sent to various parts of his kingdom. Semiramis had all of the parts gathered, except for one part that could not be found. That missing part was his reproductive organ, his penis. There, it has been said. Semiramis claimed that Nimrod could not come back to life without it, and told the people of Babylon that Nimrod had ascended to the sun and was now to be called Baal, the sun god. Queen Semiramis also proclaimed that Baal would be present on earth in the form of a flame, whether candle or lamp, when used in worship. Semiramis was creating a mystery religion, and with the help of Satan, she set herself up as a goddess. Semiramis claimed that she was immaculately conceived. She taught that the moon was a goddess that went through a 28-day cycle and ovulated when full. She further claimed that she came down from the moon in a giant moon egg that fell into the Euphrates River. This was to have happened at the time of the first full moon after the spring equinox. Semiramis became known as Ishtar, which is pronounced Eastar, and her moon egg became known as Ishtar's egg. Ishtar soon became pregnant and claimed that it was the rays of the sun god Baal that caused her to conceive. The son that she brought forth was named Tammuz. Tammuz was noted to be especially fond of rabbits, and they became sacred in the ancient religion because Tammuz was believed to be the son of the sun god Baal. Tammuz, like his supposed father, became a hunter. The day came when Tammuz was killed by a wild pig. Queen Ishtar told the people that Tammuz was now ascended to his father, Baal, and that the two of them would be with the worshippers in the sacred candle or lamp flame as Father, Son, and Spirit. Ishtar, who is now worshipped as the Mother of God and Queen of Heaven, continued to build her mystery religion. The queen told the worshippers that when Tammuz was killed by the wild pig, some of his blood fell on the stump of an evergreen tree, and the stump grew into a full new tree overnight. This made the evergreen tree sacred by the blood of Tammuz. She also proclaimed a 40-day period of time of sorrow each year prior to the anniversary of the death of Tammuz. During this time, no meat was to be eaten. Worshippers were to meditate upon the sacred mysteries of Baal and Tammuz, to make the sign of the T in front of their hearts as they worshiped. They also ate sacred cakes with the marking of a T or a cross on the top. Every year on the first Sunday after the first full moon, after the spring equinox, a celebration was made. It was Ishtar's Sunday and was celebrated with rabbits and eggs. Ishtar also proclaimed that because Tammuz was killed by a pig, that a pig must be eaten on that Sunday. By now, the readers of this tract should have made the connection that paganism has infiltrated the contemporary Christian churches, and further study indicates that this paganism came in by way of the Roman Catholic system. The truth is that Easter has nothing whatsoever to do with the resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ. We also know that Easter can be as much as 3 weeks away from the Passover, because the pagan holiday is always set as the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox. Some have wondered why the word Easter is in the King James Bible. It is because Acts chapter 12 tells us that it was the evil King Herod who was planning to celebrate Easter and not the Christians. The true Passover and pagan Easter sometimes coincide, but in some years they are a great distance apart. So much more could be said, and we have much more information for you. If you are a seeker of the truth, we know that the Bible tells us in John chapter 4, verse 24, God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. The truth is that the 40 days of Lent, eggs, rabbits, hot cross buns, and the Easter ham have everything to do with the ancient pagan religion of Mystery Babylon. These are all Antichrist activities. Satan is a master deceiver and has filled the lives of well-meaning professing Christians with idolatry. These things bring the wrath of God upon children of disobedience who try to make pagan customs of Baal worship Christians. You must answer for your activities and for what you teach your children. These customs of Easter honor Baal, who is also Satan, and is still worshipped as the rising sun, and his house is the house of the rising sun. How many churches have sunrise services on Ishtar's day and facing the rising sun in the east? How many will use colored eggs and rabbit stories as they did in ancient Babylon? These things are no joke, any more than Judgment Day is a joke. I pray to God that this tract will cause you to search for more truth. We will be glad to help you by providing more information and by praying for you. These are the last days, and it is time to repent. Come out and be separate. By David J. Meyer, Lost Trumpet Ministries International.